So this one's different, guys. It's almost like a podcast. It's almost an hour long. I reached out to a fellow YouTuber that I met a few times at shows. Dave listens to hi-fi and realized that he doesn't live that far from me. So sent Dave an email, asked him if he wanted to come listen to my system, just, shoot the shit. And I said I'd love to go hear his rig as well. Maybe we can make a few videos out of it and who knows what happens. So anyways, here's the 1 hour conversation on his experience listening to my system and, a few other topics. Hope you guys enjoy.
There are no veils. Every veil has been lifted from this system. You've achieved like a super high level of performance here. The slight shoutiness, how enveloping it is. Oh, wonderful. A lot of tubes. In an ideal world, I would see more bass extension on the bottom end.
All right, so we just finished listening for a bit. Dave, thanks for coming over.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. We met a few times at shows. And,
Yeah.
And I've been watching all of your videos since you started. I like watching channels, especially the ones that started at first, because you never know. You never know who's the next big thing. So I watch all the new channels. I think it's great.
I just love seeing all the different videos and the different opinions and the different voices, because that's, I only have my own experience, and I did a video about, reading some stuff on forums and then, having been there, my own experience at an audio show, and just the different things that people hear when you're all sitting listening to the same stuff, how different the experience is. It's there's no one right answer. Everyone has their own different opinions, all subjective, and so it's fun to hear.
You're already so ahead of the game by knowing that. It takes a lot of people years to come to terms with that. And a lot of people have such strong biases based on what they've experienced, what they've seen, and the farther the truth is from what their bias tells them is true, the more emotional they are about. No, that can't be. Yeah, that's not true. That can't be. That's crap. Or snake oil. Sorry, I'm having some paranoia here. Yes, it's recording. So many times. The worst is especially when someone else is there, like you being here today. Like you set everything up, you go for 15 minutes, and then you go and check it. It's like, oh,
Could we do that spontaneously again?
yeah. So Thomas was here. Thomas, his jaw dropped. Okay. My audiophile buddies, their jaws don't drop like Thomas when they come here. Maybe it's because I don't know. They experienced every minor iteration. Like every time I do something and I'm not sure, I end up with like tunnel hearing after a while, because like then you kind of like forget. Okay, is that good? Is that not good? And like, where did I come from? What was it like before? And eventually you start to forget. So I tell the boys, I'm like, tell me what you think. And so to them, it was never great. So I was curious, Dave. I'm very happy that you came, and I'm gonna go hear your rig as well. I'm very curious to hear your rig.
It's all personal. If I like it,
Oh,
doesn't
for
mean
sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, but you have an advantage now, right? Because um, your expectations coming here, Thomas screwed your expectations up.
I was just half joking because I know someone has such a focused opinion on something. It's no one else is going to feel that way.
And had you never seen Thomas's video,
Yeah.
and you had just shown up here, you might have had a completely different experience.
Well, already, from your experience and the equipment you have, and hearing you talk and hearing you present things, I already know that you're on a certain level, and then you can hear things, and you have the experience, and you have the experience trying different things. Certainly with your development of your speakers, you know what to listen for, and you know what works and what doesn't. So already, just knowing that, I know, yeah, it's in your taste, but you can recognize what's going to make a difference, and you can hear the subtleties, and you can kind of put priorities on different elements, but you can hear all the different elements, and you can balance them. So already knowing that, I knew I was coming into something good on a certain level at least.
I was hoping that one of the key things that you would take away when you saw Thomas's video was that I'm very aware, and I said this to Thomas many times. I said it the room experience, like the experience is great, like great in my opinion, and in his now, for some types of genres. Some other types of genres, it's not that it's bad, it's just it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. I can listen to music. I can listen to it, but my jaw will never go, "Whoa, okay, that was special." Whereas there's a specific types of genres, in my opinion, the you know what? Before I go, like I don't want to dictate anything. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
stop. I'm gonna stop. Um,
My first kind of general overall
yeah,
comment. You know how you go to a show and you listen to systems and oh, this one's $1 million, and you're like, huh, I think I have almost this at home.
yeah,
I bet you almost never hear anything better at a show because the way this is set up, it's dialed. It's completely dialed, and this is if this system was at a show, it would get best of show award.
yeah. If I could dial it the way I dial
Yeah,
it in this room, if I could,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. Thomas said that too. I didn't put it on camera, but he said, "Man, why don't you get a room at the show?" I'm like, I'm not spending $20,000 for people
And
to walk in the
4 months.
room. Yeah, for people to walk in the room and be like, "Oh, how much?" Well, let me see. How much did the room cost? Give me $5 more than the room cost, please. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, you'll surprise people." I'm like, I will and I won't. I think we all have like someone who doesn't. I'm sorry, someone who's a metalhead, someone who listens to grunge, metal, things like Mastodon. This is not going to impress them. Not a chance. Not a chance. And it's something that I mentioned in the Sibelius video where I was putting on my Harley hat. Um, I come across audiophiles that, um, if this was their room and with the music they listen to, there would be an array of subwoofers in that corner, an array of subwoofers in that corner, and there would be like ribbons and multiple mid-band drivers. Um, and to them, it's sure as long as the stereo image is there, they're not about the subtleties of the soundstage and the room that it was recorded in. No, they're listening to Mastodon. They wanna feel that bass guitar destroy their gut. They want to feel the drums or the electronic drums. It has to be intense, and it has to keep its composure all the way up to 100 decibels. I That's what those guys give me an impression. That's what they want. That's what they prioritize. For them to sit there and be like, on this live recording of Panthera, I can hear the guy in the back. He's like, no.
When he's swinging his guitar, I can hear the air past the microphone.
It's just not. That's not the values they look for. But then you have guys that love jazz. They would come into something like this, and then I get to stimulate their brain cells. They would be like, "Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting." So what? Let's start with the boring stuff. What disappointed you? What did you have? By disappointed, I don't mean you thought it was necessarily bad. Is that what you heard versus what your expectations were? It was less than what you expected, or it was different, like different in a it could be better kind of way.
I think the slight shoutiness
Okay.
that is I don't know, inherent
Yeah,
in horn driven stuff. I heard that. I didn't expect to hear that, but I heard a bit of that.
that's what
Yeah.
Thomas liked. Fascinating. Where on the did you hear it? You probably felt a lot of that shoutiness on the first track.
The
Bang bang.
no, it was mostly on the second vocal, the second and third vocal.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
the female or the male?
yeah, the female. Who was it?
That
The
was Joanne.
Hallelujah was that
Oh, Hallelujah was
Todd
Damien Rice.
Rundgren.
It was Damien Rice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, his voice and the female vocal before that, it was just a little shouty.
There was a little
Yeah,
shoutiness to it.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Um, what did the opposite for you? What did you expect this, but actually this happened?
The room reverb, the soundstage, especially the height, and on some of the tracks, just how enveloping it is.
Okay.
I mean, it's like 9.1, 9.5, whatever.
Oh,
It's just like
oh, in terms
it.
of
It's just
a Dolby
yeah.
number?
It's just the height of the room and the width is I've heard it on many systems, but here to hear the how seamless it is in terms of height of the soundstage, depth, and then on some tracks, especially the later ones, I don't know which one it was, in um, even the Louis Armstrong one, it just wraps around, and it's just seamless the whole way around, and height and width, and then the decay, and the like. I keep asking, are you sure that's just a single driver? There's no tweeter here, because the treble extension is just smooth and extended. Like it's not.
That's fascinating. A lot of people, when they hear this, they tell me you need a super tweeter. And maybe actually I'm probably wrong. Maybe now that I have them this set up in this way, I don't find I that I need a super tweeter at all. Not with this. But some people, I don't know what it is. They're like, eh.
I don't know if I would like their systems then.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like some people are used to having big EMT tweeters, and that's very, very in your face, and it's potent, I guess, in terms of treble. Maybe if you go from that to this, you're like, oh, wait a second, something's off. But to me, you wouldn't get that shouty effect if there wasn't a good treble response. If it felt rolled off, you probably wouldn't feel that shouty effect, because I think the two go together. Even though you have, because I think the shoutiness comes from the upper mid range because of the shallow horn. I think that's what's has that projection effect.
I find it's more present kind of right in the middle of the mid range. Well, depending on the size of a horn, I've noticed that. But
Well, we're probably saying the same thing, because what we would consider middle of the mid range, or what I consider a bit higher up in the mid range, is all based on our perceptions and what we think. But we're essentially listening to the same thing. Okay, okay, that's I get that.
I find the treble extension, the clarity, and the detail in the top end is just spectacular. Some of the cymbals on that first track, you would hit the cymbal and it would just ride, and you hear the tick and you hear the ring, and then you hear the lower harmonic of the cymbal just decay to nothing. 4 bars, 4 counts in. It's really impressive.
Cool. Okay, so definitely you the all the acoustic stuff, the vocal stuff is, from what you're telling me, sounded great. All right, that's cool. What did you think of when I put on Ratchet for like 8 seconds? That giant amount of bass and electronic music. What were your thoughts on that?
It sounded exactly the way I like bass to sound. Because I've got open baffle at home. It was actually less bass than I thought it would be. Less deep, especially on because there's a Bjork track that I played, and there's some really low sub bass that was not as present as I hear in my
I
room.
don't have any. Honestly, they're geared to down to 30 hertz, but I think that in my room right now, under like 38 hertz, it's like a -6 dB. Pretty sure of it. So really, if you have tracks that has 25 hertz, 22, like that range, right now in my room, that's not. You're not seeing any of that. I would have to add specific subwoofer to that. And it's something that I thought of doing in one of my next crazy phases, is to build my own open baffle array of bass drivers. So I would have three bass drivers. I would have either an 18 or 21 inch that would take care of the 20 hertz to 40 hertz ish, have one 40 to 60, and have a smaller one like a 12-inch bass driver that does the 60 to the 65 to 90. That has complications. So hasn't been done.
Come on, everyone does that. Why? It's not so hard.
Yeah, but I mean, this is my rabbit hole of curiosity. I mean, this is my seventh version. Eight if you factor in the ladybugs. So I'm gonna be working on the ladybugs. When I get the ladybugs just right, the next thing is, I know I'm missing that bottom part, and that's very environmentally. Um, it contributes to the soundstage, right? A lot. So I got a good idea how to tune things so that instruments sound the way I like them. The next step will be, well, when I finish the ladybugs, the next step will be to make that soundstage even more magical. Maybe it's not needed. I don't know. It's just because it's there. And after that, okay, let's go.
Okay, I
get
don't
that
know where you would
really.
go from here with the soundstage.
It's well, maybe you'll be like meh, because when Thomas was here, what Thomas valued, or what was he was I guess the most surprised at, was that shouty impact. He could feel the impact in the mid range,
Yeah.
and even though Thomas voices a lot of his gear in a V curve, he's a mid range fanatic. When you tweak when you put Thomas in front of a good mid range, he's like, like I could you see the little hairs on the back of his neck start climbing up. So when he went from that, that's what he really valued, and then he heard the ladybugs. His initial impression was like, "Whoa, I lost that. I don't have it anymore." So
Okay.
I was looking at him, and it took like a couple tracks for his mind to like, okay, forget that little magic in the mid range that you loved is not there anymore. Pay attention to the rest. Let your now that your hearing is reset. And then eventually he saw it. He was like, "Oh yeah, okay, the soundstage is whoa, this is nuts."
Yeah.
Because it plays a visual trick because the speakers are so low,
Oh yeah.
angled down. So you're like, "Oh, what's this going to be?" Oh, then it starts, and you're like, "What the heck is going on?"
Yeah.
So we'll get there. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I've got an old set of Noresco speakers with German isophone. They're two-way coax, but the bigger driver is full range, and just one cap on the tweeter, so it's pretty pure, and they're about 97 dB efficient, and they're low, but you put them down there, and then the sound state is just up everywhere. You gotta kind of point them right at you, but yeah, it does that thing where it's like, but the speakers are down there.
Oh, it's great. I love that, especially when you play on someone's mind. They expect something, and they're like, "Oh, it's there instead of here." Wow. Yeah. So, anything? What was the track that you preferred the most? Was there a track that, or what were the elements that
I
made
mean,
you say, "Wow, this is awesome"?
the you know the trope where you put in something new and it's as if veils are lifted from the sound. There are no veils. Every veil has been lifted from this system.
I hope so. I
It
was
is
hoping you were going to say that.
so clean and clear. Like the detail is just present on everything. It's I guess I imagine that's an element of a lot of tubes does that as well, and clean power and single drivers, no crossovers and yeah,
Quiet tubes, because if when you don't use quiet tubes, the veils come back.
you would know.
Yeah, because if you would have said it feels like it's veiled, I would have given up, because the amount of effort I've been putting into the
No,
power clean tubes, I'll be like, if I don't have that,
that comes through in spades because every single guitar pluck in that song. I don't know what the name of it is called, it the pirate song.
yes, oh yeah, the shanty, the sea
Yeah.
shanty song, where it's just a guy with drums and then
I
harmonization.
don't know if he's just tapping a guitar. That was kind of what I thought.
It could be that,
Yeah,
or it's one of those short, like a bongo, like a box bongo. It's a wooden, definitely a wooden structure he's tapping.
but you can hear the tap, you can hear the resonance, you can hear the initial kind of impact, and but also the hand hitting the instrument plus the instrument making its own noise. Like just you can hear all of the elements of that one little quick percussion all at once, and it's all separate, and you hear everything. So that's especially on that.
We should have a short listen. I'm gonna put one track just before you leave, that I played before for you, but I'm gonna play it so that it doesn't go any higher than like 84 dB. Um, because it was kind of loud for several tracks. That's why the first track I asked, I said, "How loud do you think that was?" Because I have my eye on the dB meters, so it's easy for me to understand and know. But when it peaks at 95 and 96 dB, that's when the shoutiness becomes more present. Because if you have the shoutiness, but you're in the 78 to 84 dB range, it's not that the shoutiness disappears, but the shoutiness feels a little different.
Yeah, because of the Fletcher Munson stuff, I guess.
Yeah, so I'd be curious. I'll play one that you said it was very that you felt like it was shouty. Or what I could do is just angle them out a degree or two more, and see if that still triggers you the way it did.
Now, how loud do you normally listen?
My sweet spot is 85. I
Okay.
love 85. I like to feel it.
You
I
got a
find
tattoo,
90.
85 dB.
I love it. I should get get shirts 85 dB. Um, yeah, because most of my listening's done in the evenings.
Okay.
And once the kids are in bed and whatnot, um, I enjoy the wow factor of the 90, 91, 92 dB, but not all music genres sound great at
Yeah.
that level. Like, um, yeah, I find it's like the 75 to 85, that range to me is my happy place. I enjoy that a lot. Um, but I've enjoyed evenings where I'll sit down and it's actually very low and it doesn't go over 70.
Mhm.
As long as I don't start at 85 and then go to 70,
Yeah.
then it takes my ears are like, no, I got to reset.
Yeah.
But I've had some evenings where I enjoyed like a quiet listen. Um, and if I want to feel a little bit more oomph in the bass, then I just
Oh, you
adjust the gain on the bass amplifier, because a lot of times when you're dealing with one amplifier feeding your system, a lot of people complain that you don't have that presence in the low end when you're listening at low levels.
yeah.
But some gear does it very well,
Yeah.
just not all gear does it well. But it's the fun part of biamping, is you can play with that stuff.
And I guess we also tune our systems to the volume we normally listen to because a lot of my listening is, 60, 70 dB
Mhm.
um, after midnight.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm used to. But my system does sound full range at the low listening levels. Like
Yeah.
during the day when I have the opportunity, I'll turn it up to get that wow factor and you know, glitch mob and
Yeah. So if you had something that you would change in terms of sonic character, so the low end, you mentioned the low end.
yeah. Ideally, in an ideal world, I would see more bass extension on the bottom end.
Yeah.
Um, at times, if it was my system, I would change some tubes or something to make it a bit less bright.
Okay. Round everything off a little bit. I know exactly what tubes to put in to make you go, "Oh, this is cool." I
Yeah, no,
I have them right there,
that's all.
and you know what? That's what we're gonna
I'm
do as
sure
a
that's
last
all
test.
it is. It's just
That's what we'll do as a last test. I'll change the 300 Bs.
yeah,
I'll make it cool down right now, and then and we'll see if that's enough.
yeah.
If that's enough, it might not be. It might require more, but okay. So you like you by saying a little less brightness, would you want more warmth in the mids, or do you want more of that low end presence?
Um, I found when the volume was very high, some of the higher end presence was a bit objectionable to
Okay.
my normal tastes. Johnny Cash's voice was a bit too detailed.
You know what was great about Johnny Cash's voice when you heard that? It's not Johnny Cash.
Oh,
Played a trick on you. I forget his name, but he calls himself the ghost of Johnny Cash.
oh yeah.
He sounds like Johnny Cash, but he has this subtle difference where his voice, he's got a deepness in his voice,
Yeah.
but I find he doesn't have the mid range of Johnny Cash, but he has that detail. Like Johnny Cash doesn't have a voice that is hyper detailed. It's more present in the lower mids, but this guy sounds like Johnny Cash, but it's like he's like on a slightly higher octave than Johnny Cash.
Oh.
So I played a trick. But I'll play Johnny Cash after.
Okay,
You'll
yeah.
it'll depending on where he is in his age or what a track I play, uh, might be a little different. But that's what I play. I always do that, and people are like, "Okay, but your Johnny Cash sounds a little bit different." I'm like, "It's because it's not Johnny Cash." Yeah. All right. That's okay. So that's fascinating, and I'd be curious if I were to get fill in that lower end that's missing.
Mhm.
I bet you wouldn't find that it sounds as bright as it does now,
You think?
because it's possible that things for you right now don't feel balanced. So if there's too much weight in terms of the highs and details compared to the weight in the lower
Mhm.
frequency range, it's not balanced. Um, when I turned off the bass, did it feel worse to you?
No, it just sounded like it.
Okay, it just sounded like
Yeah,
there was nothing. Okay,
yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
maybe okay, so my theory is
But
probably
to me
not.
for me the tilt of the system is bit like that
Like that.
when
Okay.
I prefer it. But yeah,
Okay. Cool. Fascinating.
yeah.
I got some things I
But
gotta change.
well, don't do for me.
No, but that's how I learn,
Yeah.
because that's a challenge. When you know, you start to know someone and their sonic taste, and they tell you, "I'd like for you to adjust this or adjust that," and if you can get that done with just the gear that I already have, that's because then I know I really understand my rig
Yeah,
and I know what
no,
to do.
no doubt. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a tube change. It's some cables or some tubes, um, and it's gonna give that different character.
Yeah, what I could try.
Yeah.
We're gonna try it before you go. Just get curious.
Okay.
And I'm paranoid. Let me just see if that's still going. That's still going. Yes, sir. That's still going too. All right.
I get how addictive this system can be just because of the things that it draws out of the recording. You're like, oh, I heard that. Okay, now let me put on something else. I want to see. If, oh, that's there. That's because I listened to the Talk Talk. Did you know Talk Talk?
No, I wasn't familiar with them. Trust me, I am now.
Oh,
I added them to.
okay, yeah. Because for a long time, Color of Spring, that's been I have the LP that I bought in the '80s, and that's been it's really well recorded. I love the instrumentation. It's
Lots
just
of layers of
yeah.
instruments. It was wonderful.
It's
Yeah.
they have a couple albums that are kind of atmospheric and just like super dynamics and soundstage, and just really lovely to listen to. But that track there, that was um, I think that was their most commercially successful album, and
It's part of my favorites collection. I'm gonna be one evening. I'm gonna sit down and just I'll pick an album, go through it.
yeah.
Pick an album, go through it.
But I've been listening to that since, for 30, 40 years, however long it's been around. And even on this system, I was hearing stuff that I hadn't heard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just different, different percussions and different layers in where things were. And
Interesting.
so, like, it's, a
Interesting.
track that I knew like the back of both of my hands. It's
Yeah.
just like, there's more.
I mean, I'm sure, and it's not to say that you heard it all, because you could go to another system
Yeah.
and you'll hear things that you didn't hear here, and it's
But that transparency and that detail that it pulls out
yeah, the lack
is
of a veil.
exceptional. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, so it's interesting. Yeah, yeah, Thomas didn't mention any of that. Thomas was very much caught on that mid range, that little bit of shoutiness that comes out like that. I think the drums, that skin of the drums, got him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it got him.
Um, I was gonna do a video about it, but I have this, this kind of I don't know. It's not a guilty. It's kind of the opposite of a guilty pleasure. I mean, it's something like a secret that I'm ashamed of. That I kind of don't feel I know what mid range is.
Oh, that's
Like people talk about mid range, but it's never intuitive to me. Like high end and low end, and then reverb, soundstage, and depth, and tonality, and clarity.
and most of us will
I
enjoy
get all
music.
that,
Will
but
enjoy music that's V curve, that's have like tilted highs, tilted bass. Most people are like, that sounds great. So people are like, what's everyone talking about mid range?
just the character of what mid range is. Yeah, I'm getting more of a sense of it as people talk about it, but it's never been, previously, before YouTube, reading Stereophile and Absolute Sound, because I've been doing this since my teenage years, and
When's the
you
last
know,
time you got goosebumps listening to a system?
oh, last night.
Okay. From what I my for me, it's that it's the mid range frequency band when that sounds great. That around that 400 hertz ish, which would be low. That's a low. I would consider that lower mid range. So like the 400 to 800 type of thing. Some say it's like 1,000. The upper end. To me, 1,000. Like if we listen to tones,
Yeah.
do that. Like go on Spotify or whatever. There's these test albums
Okay.
that you can find.
Frequencies.
Yeah, it's a specific frequency tone. Listen to all these frequency tones individually on your system, and it's fascinating afterwards what you're over time. Don't just do it once and think it's going to work. But I've done it, I don't know, like several dozen times now at different times of my journey. And over time, my brain helps me pick up, like, you know what? Kind of feels like that 500 hertz range when I like is not there. Like it's like it doesn't feel like it's there. It's a way to kind of help you help train your mind and to your ears to what you're hearing by just picking these simple tones. Sure, a tone is not like an instrument, but it triggers your ears, I think, in a way that you'll recognize it eventually. And like, and it's funny because to me, the more I try to analyze things in my mind, someone that says a lush mid-range, to me now that means that it's a mid-range that is nice and full, so it's projecting that range of frequencies very well, but that upper bass that accompanies it is just as good, and that's what's giving it that lushness.
Yeah, to me, it just means like there's a lot of upper bass.
That's what it's. Yeah, it means that the mid-range is there, but it's complemented very well by the bass. And then if someone says that the mid-range is nicely textured, well, the textures doesn't come unless the highs, the beginning of the highs at the upper echelon is giving that detail. Yeah, exactly. So it's strange. A lot of people are like comment on the mid-range, but the mid-range is only as good as its highs or its lows. Right? That's where I'm at now in my thought process. The balance, again, that tonal balance to me becomes key. Like we're talking about the most important thing that we thought, like we agree that speaker amplifier matching. If you don't have that match, you can get the best source in the world, the best cables in the world, the best preamp in the world. The amp and the speaker don't like each other, it ain't gonna work.
If you want to build a system, start from source. I'd say buy speakers that you like the look of, and you like the sound of. Find a amp to match, and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so for me in terms of sonic characteristic, soundstage used to be what I valued the most. Well, no, that's not true. As a very young man, it was all about the bass, which is often the case when you're in your low 20s. Then it was the soundstage. Now it's tonal balance. I want things to sound even. I want things to sound to what I think is real. Everybody has a perception to what they consider real. And it's all based on our experiences in life. There's people who their experience of what an instrument sounds like is the sound they've been hearing while they're on stage playing in a band. It sounds slightly different than when you're sitting in the audience in the front row, or you're sitting always in the last row, or your experiences in a recording studio. Or okay, a trumpet sounds like a trumpet. It does and it doesn't, because an acoustic guitar, to someone who's not trained, acoustic guitar sounds like an acoustic guitar. But someone who's trained can tell the difference between a Taylor, a Gibson, a Martin, a Takamine. A Takamine and a Gibson sound very different. There's no that to someone who knows, there's no comparison. And people who even know, you could, if you take the wrong guitar type to play a certain song, to replay a known song, they'll be like, no, that's wrong. They're like, your guitar's playing on the wrong, like it's the wrong pitch, the wrong octave. So
at one point, I really paid attention to it, and I could easily pick out the difference between a Telecaster and a Stratocaster in songs. It's like, oh yeah,
yep. And then there's the nutballs that can tell even the differences between the different wood types that are used in the body of the guitar. I can hear the differences when they're side by side. I'm like, oh yeah, there's far more like mid-range. This one has a lot more brightness and detail. But if I were to sit blindly and not know what I would never be able to tell. Oh, that's Koa, that's Spruce, that's no change. Artist Cloner, that was something that really impressed me. In his section where he has those mid-tweeters, no, there was tweeters. His drivers, there were what, 6-7 inch woofers. He didn't have big drivers in these speakers.
No, big boxes.
But the bass that came out of those things was beautiful, and his AMT tweeter was not affected at all. It kept its composure, even though it shared what looked like the same front baffle. When I put my hand on those like stone, I don't know if it's stone, but it's like on the side of those boxes, while Ratchet was playing. No difference in putting my hand here right now. There was no vibration.
Oh wow!
He was laughing. It was like, I was like, wow, complete lack of like.
Who knows how thick that is?
I wonder, and because it can't just all be stone. I think he built a
I think it's a veneer of.
yeah, it's or something like that, where then he would put it in a type of cement or stone, like a that you mix with water maybe, and you let it set. I don't know. I've emailed them, asked them if I could.
Yeah, that would be a fun field trip.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because my jaw dropped in that room. Loved it.
And it's amazing that you kind of settled on these drivers. You found these drivers because the the performance on them is just you can just keep making them better just with different baffles.
Yeah.
Seems
And
unlimited.
not even 500 a pair, I think,
Fair.
for the pair. I mean, I sometimes I look at the full range drivers, the high end ones, like from Cube Audio and all, or Voxative, and I'm like, does that say $9,000 for a driver? Like,
I mean, they're beautiful, but
I don't like.
and then, but then you look at the QTS and it's like, oh, it's not meant for open baffle. Because audiophiles will do crazy things. Like you'll buy, like anyone will buy something really expensive once in their life for audiophile. I would do it if the QTS was favorable for an open baffle.
how many watts are we putting out here on the on these full range? 6.
6, well, max 6. We probably use 2.5 because I never went above half volume, and the deckware gain knobs are at 75%. I'd be surprised if we went above 2. But 97 dB efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take much.
No.
And the bass drivers is only, I think, 200 watts. This one is it 200? I don't remember. Anyways, it's a smaller model. So 1002. So it's, I think it's 208 ohms. I think 404. But I could even improve the bass performance if I went with the bigger model. But I'll pick this one up for.
Have you tried a big AB amp on that?
Yep.
My favorite I tried all kinds of applications with those things. I tried Class A single-ended, terrible. Class A single-ended with the bass driver, no good. AB push-pull sounded good, sounded actually very good. But Class D, total control. Fast, tight, sharp. I can choose, like, if I want to make them boomy, I can make them sound boomy. I just gotta change the frequency response, adjust the gain. But if I want them tight and fast, kind of like for me, Ratchet, the bass is impactful, but it's spring loaded in a way that it bounced back right away. It doesn't. That bass is finished. And that's what I want. And that's hard to do, I think, at the 20 hertz level. That requires a serious driver with serious control. Hence, why these SVSs, RELs, and so on cost a lot of money. Servos, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I had a pair of rails, but I would probably only go to servos or some kind of open baffle array or something.
I haven't played with subs yet.
But you have some kind of lower frequency. You have a lower frequency.
Yeah, like I have a response well into the 20s.
Okay, and that's just from your main speakers.
Yeah.
Nice, very nice. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Oh, man, I'm sure.
You'll be impressed with the bass.
I'm sure it's gonna be great. Oh, come on. I'm sure.
Everything's good. What's your digital source right now? What kind of DAC do you have?
I have MSB.
Okay, you have an MSB DAC. That's expensive.
Not when they first came out with
Okay.
DACs.
Okay.
The MSB Link DAC.
That's fascinating. Is it an R2R in there? Because I know the newer ones.
No. Like this is 1997 or something like
Okay.
that when they first started making external DACs, and so I got an MSB.
Oh man, I'm curious. I want to hear that.
Big flat thing, and it's actually got op amps that are in sockets, so that I'm gonna try playing with some op amps, different op amps in there. But I listen to the digital maybe 10% of the time. It's mostly just to explore music. Do I like this song? Oh, it sounds like it could sound good. I'll buy the record.
I can't believe that I actually sold you a phono stage those years ago. How long has it been now? 4, 5?
Yeah, probably 4 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Small world. You know, when you said, "Hey, you happen to sell a musical paradise with multiple rectifiers," and I was like, "What?"
No, because yeah, I know you have some musical paradise stuff, and I just started connecting the dots and like, oh, he's big into rectifiers, and I know that I bought upgraded rectifier tubes, and
What a small world.
that's it. And then
What a small
there's
world.
some connections, some lines, or some dots are
funny.
connecting here. So
That's funny. I've actually had a guy once come here twice and only realized once he sat there, he was like, "I was here 4 years ago." And I'm like, "Were you?" It's like, "Yes." It's like, "You sold me the Lin speakers." I went, "I did. That's true."
welcome back.
You forget. He had come. Yeah, that's it. I had sold him the Lin speakers, and he came back when I sold my Tectons. He was curious.
Oh yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm curious to hear Tectons." And he comes downstairs and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've been here." I'm like, "Really?" Small world of audiophiles, I guess, around here. Yeah, well, this was great. Anything surprised you or not surprised you, or anything you wonder how something is the way it is, or
I mean, I don't know how each component affects the total sound. I mean, I know you've achieved like a super high level of performance here. Um, but yeah, you have your reclocker and you have your external clock for the DAC, and you have extra tubes in there, and then your tube rectifier. And so
I'm due to go
it's
back.
interesting how what each element like that plays in the whole sound. Like, what does it sound like without the reclocker? What does it sound like without the external clock?
well, it's hard. It'd be hard for me to tell you all the details on some of them. So the USB clocker for me helped a lot with the reduction again in background noise, removing of that veil. It's another veil that was removed because it removes the chance of you having more artifacts, I think, in the digital signal, which also makes people call digititis when could you really short of that, the soft crackle baseline of vinyl, even a clean vinyl, there's it's not crackles when it's clean, but
There's always that sense of
There's
presence.
a bit of a rush.
yes, yeah, there's always that presence. So short of having that, I don't have that. um I don't hear that digital glare that I used to hear when I first started with DAX. A lot of that is gone, and a lot of that is because of the reclocker, because of the external clock, um, because of the freaking expensive Jupiter capacitors that are in there, the tubes that are in there, and also they're hanging there because the deckware pills. So deckware, it's essentially a type of capacitor where I have the interconnects from the DAC come in and from there into the preamp, and that that cap in there kind of helps remove a little bit of that glary digital glare. But it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to recommend anyone because if you have crossovers in your speaker, plug that in. Not sure you'll hear a damn difference. It it's got to be very revealing. I say if you have a crossover, it's not true. Mega high end speakers, great speakers have high quality crossovers, good parts. They're very transparent, absolutely. But run of the mill speakers under 10 grand in a retail world, not many. Some yeah, but not many. So that's what's hard, even about people like, oh, what should I do, or what about this, what about
that.
Yeah, made a difference for me, but
yeah, it's like I don't know all the variables where you are and how you interpret things. So that's, especially someone who's early on in their journey. There's I can't I can't talk to them about little subtleties like that. There's no point.
No.
yeah, people who aren't experienced and then they try something like that is like snake oil. That makes no difference. You're
They
throwing
say,
money away.
yeah,
You're an
it's like you're
idiot.
throwing money away, but
But then again, like um, some people will only appreciate differences that are big. Some people that there's like different people that drink wine. There's people that drink wine that like they want white or they want red, and there's people that drink wine that's like, no, 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 I don't want that region of France. I want that region of France. Why? Well, because I wanted to have this and have that.
okay,
Because of the soil, obviously.
Right.
right,
But
but
someone who's not trained, if that person just tries to make the other, like make the first character that just knows the difference between red or white, that person's going to look at the other one like, you're an idiot. Like, there's no difference.
Yeah.
Well, there is a difference. It doesn't mean that everyone is trained to be able to see the difference. Someone who starts off, the most important thing is get a pair of speakers and an amplifier that make you go, wow, when you listen to music. When you have that, if you want to go down that rabbit hole more, sure. But that's all that you really want. Like, no, you just put all your money on your source. If you're lucky, it'll work. Because by lucky meaning you got a very inexpensive speaker and inexpensive amp that just produce good results.
Yeah. And you getting a better source, you'll hear the difference. It'll sound better.
Yeah, absolutely. These are like the final filters of the whole chain.
Yeah.
And if that final filter is closed in, then you're not going to hear. Put whatever you want in the beginning. You're not going to get the best of it.
So you're running USB.
Yeah, USB streamer to the iris is USB. From the iris, and it's an AES like an XLR, like a digital XLR that goes to that. That cable also has a little fancy thing on the cable to help with the soundstage. I can adjust a little bit of the height of the soundstage, but it's extremely subtle. It's very subtle. So when you said before that you felt like the soundstage was high,
Yeah.
I forget the name of that little crystal that's there that I can adjust. I can help that. But
Well, whatever you did, it worked because like just yeah, like the reverb, you could hear it from way up high.
cool,
That's something that's really rare.
cool.
Yeah, soundstage width and depth, you can reproduce that elsewhere, but that kind of height is just very
awesome. I'm happy you heard it. Okay, because sometimes I wonder if I'm crazy or no, but like you see, you get tunnel hearing after a while. You're like it sounds really good to me, but then it's like, what's my baseline?
Yeah. Well, that's why I love going to shows. I mean, I don't visit other people's systems very often. I'll go to Thomas's occasionally, but just hearing that other stuff, I remember, because my speakers are open baffle, no box, hybrid ribbon with drivers, with cone drivers. But I went to Thomas's and we listened to a couple different Magnepans, and I could hear the resonant kind of frequency of the panel. Like as they got larger, you could actually identify the size of the panel by kind of that resonance, that coloration in the size of the panel. And so that's stuff that you're not attuned to, and I don't recognize what an open baffle sounds like but then I hear a box and I'll hear the box. You can hear the box speaker.
Just reset it. Yeah. Did you like the Magnepans?
I do like the Magnepans. Yeah, I like what they can do.
My favorite. The only reason I don't have a Magnepan set up here is that I can't tinker. To have a good solid state rig, I'm limited into what I can do because what makes Magnepan sing is not this.
Yeah, you need. Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
But when you have the gear for Magnepans, and they're perfectly set up.
Have you heard the is it the diptych? I think it's a diptych, which is the big panel speakers, and I think Wendell from
Yes, I heard it.
Magnepan
I like it.
has moved over to that company.
He's there now?
Yeah, and I heard the diptych a couple years ago at the show, and my opinion hasn't really changed hearing it a couple of times. They are the best headphones I've ever heard because to me they just
They do actually. I agree.
and I don't get a sense that I'm listening to speakers. It's just like it's
Yeah, that projection feels like everything's being analyzed here, not there. Yeah, yeah, they're great speakers. There was in Montreal this year. There were one other rooms I spent more time in.
I yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like
Did-
them. I
You
didn't.
didn't like them here?
They didn't. No, I've never.
Did you like the pure audio?
Yes, yes.
Cool. Cool. There was another one too that it wasn't open baffle, but it was a dipole, a big dipole. Forget the name. Every one of those rooms that they set up in is a different character. Like like this year, he's like Thomas panicked this year. The first night, he was like, "Oh no."
He did text me asking me if I had like I don't know what he was looking for, a certain type of cable or something.
Yeah, well, he panicked that first night because it's unpredictable how the room's going to react to the gear you're bringing in, and actually it was Leonid that was there that happened to save his butt.
Yeah.
That guy.
Me and Thomas spent an evening with him at the Toronto Audio Show a few years ago. Talk about someone who understands acoustics. My God, the guy would tune the room amazingly well. You walk in and it's like, what's all these subwoofers everywhere? Like, how many subwoofers do you need with these flagship PMC speakers? And I bet you people probably thought that. Walked in this giant room, $100,000 PMC speakers, enormous frequency response down to like 19 hertz, these speakers or something like that. And they're like, and yet he needs all these subwoofers. They can't be that good, eh? This $100,000 season. But they had no idea that these subwoofers are there to tune the room. Yeah. They were playing in different phases to cut out the standing waves, the bass. Yeah. I'm like, I thought of that.
Like additional lighting to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was very cool. Man, we recorded like an hour. I hopefully.
And that's it. Guys, if you're not already subscribed to Dave's channel, go check it out. Really cool guy. I gotta say, I really enjoyed my time. I think I got a new audio buddy in the works. This is really cool. Looking forward to going to hear Dave's system. I don't know if he's gonna make a video following his experience here, or if he's gonna make a video when I go to his place, or I'll make a video when I go to his place. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was a little bit different than usual. Yeah, I guess it was long, but I had fun. Hope you guys did too.